So here's so this is kind of like a random rant video about monitors and productivity and like the ideal setup. Now, of course, every setup is like going to be unique and different and blah 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 blah. But like, hear me out. This is kind of like a pitch of like what you can, maybe not a pitch, but like maybe what I would suppose would be maybe best practices to consider. Um, so first and foremost, we live in a world where like dual monitors is really like the most ideal. The average demographic of a worker who works in this digital age, more often than not, would require two monitors or will greatly benefit from two monitors. The question becomes, how do you set that up? Now, and I'll get to the single monitor in a second, but first, let me just hear me on this. So, first and foremost, if you are if your job issues you a laptop, uh, that could technically be your second monitor. So the question becomes, what's your main monitor? Obviously, the larger monitor becomes like your main monitor. Here's your monitor. But then where do you stick your secondary monitor, which is the laptop monitor? Well, obviously, it will have to be here now, right? But depending on the size of this, for example, for my job, they give me a 14-inch monitor that has like, it's like a, I have to do scaling to make it large enough sometimes. Um, it's a great like size when you're just using it by itself and it's right in front of you. But even if it's somewhat distant from you, like it gets kind of tricky, especially if you have some of these weird apps that like Slack and Teams, the Teams native app has some weird dimensions to it. So like now you're dealing with like the viewing angle and like how far it is. So you got to have something that brings this really close to the user's face. That's a terrible face. I should definitely undo that. You have to get like really close to the user now. So like now, uh, what you potentially are doing is encroaching on your mouse pad and your keyboard because this thing is all up in your grill. And also, it's like, unless you have it lifted with some type of like, um, you know, mount thing where it's like holding it up, it'll be great and ideal if you had this just up here. So now you got to build like custom stuff. And even then, it's not bringing it super close. So that's like what you have to deal with, right? Your main work gets done here. Well, that's terrible. Your main work gets done here, and your secondary work gets done here. And that's probably like the most ideal. Like this becomes more of a reference look. This becomes your primary work here. And if you really want to get fancy, you do virtual workspaces, and in Windows you press like Control Window or Window Alt, then the right arrow key, and then boom, your this becomes like, this will swap into different monitors or different spaces where you do different things. So it's like your makeshift third, fourth, fifth monitor in a sense. But it's stationary, it's front and center. This is definitely nice when it's ergonomic, especially if it's on a stand that's high enough, right? Because your keyboard is all here and your mouse pad's right here. So that's like ideal. But again, this becomes a tricky part. Is the second monitor that gets tricky. What happens when you have two monitors and the laptop becomes a third? I've seen in a previous role psychopaths that have done this, and the freaking monitor's in center. What kind of psychopath would do such a thing? I wish I could make this at an angle. Whatever. Well, this is the monitor, or this is the laptop. I've seen this. They're psychopaths to me. I think they have like dead bodies buried in their backyard or something. That's out of the question. What's the next best thing when you have two monitors and a third monitor from the laptop, technically? Well, for me right now, I have to have. Let me use this. I have to do one of these guys, have them like real close to each other, but they're actually at an angle, like slightly at an angle. And almost like try to trick my brain that I have like a one big widescreen, but that doesn't work. And because I don't have the stands are not that bad, but they're not tall enough to clear the laptop. So I have this laptop here, and it just has to be closed. I just have a closed laptop with a USB-C, dangling into some port back here, and then my monitors turn on. So what do you do with that third monitor from the laptop? Where does that go? Again, you have to either swing it over here and let it be like a reference thing, and you just have to hope and pray that the depth of your desk and also whatever mounts that you end up buying, you know, um, let it like swing through forward enough where you can actually see it. Because if you're here now because you have these two monitors, your viewing angle is up to here, and then you got this like break your neck over here almost sometimes depending on how it's placed. Like that doesn't work. So for me, I don't not only do I not have the hardware to mount this up high enough, um, I don't have the space to just like plop it down here either and open it up. It would literally have to almost be one of those desks that are L shaped. Those are kind of cool. That'd be kind of sweet, right? If you have a nice big desk, and then I might be able to like bring it right here, and then I can kind of just turn right there, and it's kind of like almost right here. So I'm turning a little more, and I have some more room, but that's not really ideal either. So I'm coming to the place where I kind of want to experiment, funds pending, where it's like I want to do and this is where for me, I went to our headquarters for my job in Georgia, and they had these hot desks, and they had these gorgeous, huge widescreens, curved, and then I plugged in, um, you know, plugged in my laptop, USB Type C. My laptop was here, and while it was technically like open, and it was technically like within like viewing space, I found myself just sticking to this and barely using this because I was able to plop my windows down nice and big here and just see everything. And I didn't need to do this, like, you know, the virtual monitor stuff where you're constantly doing the keyboard shortcut, to go to the virtual monitor over here and then do another workspace, and I didn't need it as much. The question then becomes, so this became like I barely use this stuff here. Barely. And this became like a thing where it's like, holy cow, I think I get it with the widescreens now. I think I get it. The only thing becomes is the shortcuts to plop it down, which tiling window managers end up becoming like a consideration now because, or smart tiling. And Windows 11 does a good job with this. Unfortunately, my job, we're still on Windows 10, but Windows 11 does this cool like window tiling placement template type thing where you have some cool options on some of the layout. So I don't know. What do you guys think is like the most ideal setup? I am of the belief that your primary workspace um, should be front and center. If it wasn't for the spacing constraints forcing me to have two of these like next to each other like this, if it wasn't for that, I would. I need one I need it for my job because I'm an instructor, so I definitely need one for like the present PowerPoint and one for the script and secondary teaching stuff. So like maybe I'll just take down one of the monitors and just do my laptop next to it and just kind of suffer through with having it not ideal with the laptop next to it. But I definitely think like you got to have something front and center. Like this whole like messing with multiple and then like you're dealing with like okay, it just gets kind of weird. I've even considered buying like a small one of those mobile monitors. They're small, um, so that I could have something like underneath as a reference, and everything is still front and center. Right here, and just even like just close this down, fold it, and then I just have a small little monitor here because I need to clear the space underneath the stand. It's not that big. It's like maybe 6 inches, 7 inches. When I open up my laptop, it's like clear like 10 inches. So in terms of the vertical required, and if you have, and again, I'm going. I have great monitors that my job gave us, but they're not like they're like kind of those they're Dell fancy ones, and they don't have the Visa or Vesa mounts, so I can't mount them anywhere. They're just on these fancy looking stands. Like the stands are gorgeous, but like they're not functional. I can't go any higher, so I'm kind of stuck here. So I don't know, guys. I don't know. Should I go with experiment with like a single monitor? I'll just store this away, buy a small monitor, and see what my productivity looks like with that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Peace.